My name is Craig Pera. I'm the founder of the Mindful Habit System, and you are listening to Sex Afflictions and Porn Addictions, a podcast to help you create healthy sexuality and a great life. Today, we are talking about the 3 myths of self-help that are actually causing a lot of suffering and actually keeping you stuck at best. At worst, these myths are like an anchor around your neck, dragging you down. And with me today, I have a very special guest, Adrian Stoibinen. Welcome, my friend. So glad you are here.
Welcome, Craig. Thanks for having me.
Honor and a privilege, my brother from another mother. Before we jump in, Adrian, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I am a psychologist in Poland. I am living in Europe. I work in the Mindful Habit team since 2013, so it's going to be 10 years soon. And I help guys struggling with compulsive sexual behavior, pornography addiction. I am a recovering person myself. I struggled with out of control sexual behaviors in the past. And the Mindful Habit system allowed me to create a great life that I have right now. Besides that, of course, I am training myself to become a sexologist. I am pursuing a certification in that. So I'm trying to keep my game, to the highest standard.
And that's an advanced training on human sexuality. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Adrian also has a master's in clinical psychology. And so what are we talking about today and why?
Well, I was thinking about starting a topic that's very rarely talked about, in coaching circles, especially, which is related to certain myths that are sold, in self-help books and self-help programs and by many motivational speakers that are actually not working for our own benefit. And for me, this is personally important because I was a guy who was following many of those myths and many of those methods, until I realized, right, that it's really making me miserable. And I want other people who are in the process of changing something in their life for better to avoid the same obstacles or same mistakes on their journey.
Yeah, awesome, Adrian. And so what we hope you get from this is an understanding of how these myths, which seem all nice and shiny on the outside, and this is what everybody's doing, but I want you to see how it's actually making things worse for you, and maybe a different approach is going to help you get where you want to go and to help you stay there. So let's start with, tell us about myth number 1.
Well, the myth number 1 that I would like to discuss is a myth of a self-made man. And, that myth was, I would say, handled or discussed by Arnold Schwarzenegger in his famous motivational speech. But I will try to take my own take on that. So a self-made man basically is a person who worked, from the ground up, who created his own career, his own life, his own success, basically from nothing, from scratch, right? And that is a person that, in that myth, that we believe that this person achieved everything due to somehow having like a higher moral ground or virtue, inside of them. They had special capacity, special motivation, special discipline, special technique that allowed them to become this self-made man, right? And I think that was in the past, it was reflected by this myth of, from the shoe polisher, right, to millionaire. I don't know how it is called in US, but you know what I mean here. So the idea there is that we, basically, if somebody's successful, that means they have either some kind of secret knowledge, or they have higher morality, higher virtue, higher level of functioning than other people around. And due to that, they achieved this total isolated, self-made success, so to speak. That's how I would describe it.
And if that's the myth, then what's the reality?
Well, in my eyes, right, I'm thinking that, all of us are actually interdependent, on other people. What I mean by interdependent is that we are every day depending on thousands and thousands and maybe millions of people all around the world, to pursue our daily tasks, basically. So we depend on the farmers that are making our food every day. We're depending on packaging companies. We're depending on people who invented the packaging machines. We're depending on people who created computers and microprocessors. We're depending on army of other people to just live and breathe and function. Not to mention our success. Our success relies also on, I would say, the circumstances that we're born in, right? If you're born into poverty, you're born in family where there is drug addiction, substance abuse, right? It doesn't mean that you can't achieve success, but your chances for that success may be significantly lower than somebody who has, I would say, a rich family, or they have like a really good functioning house, for example, because there are more resources basically that you can use in order to have a better start. So, and everybody depends on certain people on their journey. Even if the household wasn't that great, then in order to achieve success on some point of your life, you either had to find somebody that's supporting your efforts, or acknowledging that you have, I would say, something valuable in you, promoting you perhaps at work, giving you a chance. So we depend on other people in order to get where we are. And Arnold Schwarzenegger was mentioning, his trainer, basically, that trained him and taught him everything about the bodybuilding, basically, right?
Yeah. Well, and what this myth does is minimizes the impact of one of the most important attributes of success, and that's mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, just like yours, Adrian, I stand here on the shoulders of the people that have helped me along the way. And I am proud to recognize that. And I want to lift other people up. But if you're out there grinding, and I have to do it, and you're stuck in this bubble of forward momentum. We're going to talk about some of that later on too. You need somebody. We all need somebody. It's why we couple, at least most of us do. And you want to find someone who has already accomplished what you accomplished so they can help you get there too. Mentorship is so important. It's why coaching is so important. It's why therapy is so important. Counseling is so important. It's why masterminds are so important. This is absolutely a myth. I don't believe anybody is a self-made man. And if you think you are, then you are blind to your reality of those people around you that helped you get where you want to go.
Right. There is a narcissistic element, I would say, in that myth itself. And there's also, I would say, another risk that we didn't talk about that is important around that myth, that it has a potential to isolate people from others, or to make them I would say unnecessarily, prideful, just to look down on others, who are not self-made or didn't have to work as hard as them, right? And to not recognize their success or their efforts, even if they are, even if their success is in the outside world less than our success, their efforts, the road that they went to get there, may be much longer and much harder than our road, actually. So there is that element of pride, of comparison, looking down on others, and I think disconnection in this myth as well, that we're like a lonely island and we just basically created ourselves like gods, and we don't depend on anybody, we don't need anybody. I would say a perfect example of avoidant attachment style. I don't need anybody. I will meet all my needs myself, basically. So that is the risk. And that's why we need to, if you notice that you have those kind of thinking, you need to challenge that. Like, myself, I was actually going through a similar journey. I was working on creating my own company in Poland. I was trained by Craig here, when I was 21. I just started university. I was very poor back then. I was working as a barista for like $2 an hour, working in a warehouse, barely paying basically for my bills, living in a room with not 5 other people, in the house with 5 other people, in a room with one other person. And basically I couldn't sometimes afford even like how to call it, a box of tea. I remember I couldn't afford a box of tea because I didn't have any money, and I was like suffering withdrawal from caffeine, because I was drinking tea like 10 times a day, and then it was gone. So I was like having headaches for a whole week because I didn't have money to buy the next box, of tea. Maybe that was good for my health anyways, but it's just I felt like I am creating myself in a way, and creating, the success for myself, and that was very empowering. But if I would not recognize that without you, Craig, without my parents, who were amazing in giving me like cognitive skills, and I would say way of reasoning and questioning that I have now, I wouldn't be able to get where I am. I remember, I am from Poland. My parents paid for my English classes when I was in junior high school. I was doing like linguistic classes extra after school. They could afford it, so I was able to speak English more often with people, more freely. And then I started learning even more, and that allowed me to have a conversation with you, Craig, first conversation, and to recover and to keep working on this and become an international specialist. So for me, it was so clear that, even though I could say, I could write a book, from barista to worldwide coach or something like this. I never felt this way. I never felt this way about my journey, because I knew how much I am really, how much I depended on others, how much I am still relying on other people, and how important that support, that mentorship, and those opportunities were in my life and still are.
And challenging this myth is not only good for you, it's good for society, because I believe it helps you be more kind, to understand what someone else is going through, to not look down on that person, but lift that person up. Some excellent points. Thank you, Adrian. Let's jump to myth number 2. What is myth number 2?
Right. So, the myth number 2 is related in my mind to this idea that, we can have, or that the growth is going into one direction only, that we can have unlimited growth. That's first idea. And second is that it can only go in one direction. What I mean by that is that whenever you read a self-help book, you read about setting goals, creating dreams, right? And of course, we also in our program encourage people to do that, to set goals and have dreams and have specific plans for the life. But in most books, it is explained that you should either create a certain intention or visualization in order to achieve your goals, right? Put it on a dream board, for example. And if you wish for it to come true, then you're going to get there. And, obviously the success means more. It always means more and more and more. But we don't see the inherent trap in this type of thinking, that if success means having more always, then you're never satisfied. Then it's never enough. Then you're never feeling happy about what you have. And I think that, in itself can sometimes makes us miserable as we are getting to that dream, and also to not appreciate achievement of that dream when it happens, because, well, I have this perfect car. My dream car is like a Mustang from 1967, it's like that era of the car. I love how it looks. But, if I achieve that car, I would probably think, well, but Tesla is actually newer, and it's a bit more fancy, and it has better, like electronics in it. So now I should strive for the Tesla. I mean, my neighbor who is a lawyer has a Tesla, so I should have it as well, right? So we keep on that, first of all, comparison, and that mindset that we have to have more than others and more than ourselves. in order to have happiness. And it's like a bottomless pit, like a bottomless pit. So that's a problem. First of all, there is limit to our growth, and we don't know what that limit is, but everybody has that limit. There are body limits, the health issues. Craig, you can speak about that a bit, probably. There are limits of of time. There are limits of our society as well. And at some point also there's limit of the time. We are going to die at some point, right? We don't know when. So our success, we can achieve a lot, probably more than we think, but it is always limited by something. And I argue that it's a bit delusional to believe that there are no limits to growth, or that it would be good for the planet and everybody around, to have unlimited growth. Because there's one thing that I know on this world that has unlimited growth, and forever grows and grows and grows. You know what it is, Craig?
Oh, I was in my mind, I flashed to an algae bloom, which happens, when the pH balance of water is off. No, I do not know. What is it?
Right. So yeah, that was a very good idea. I was thinking about cancer.
Cancer.
Actually, yes,
Yeah.
cancer always grows, and it kills the body it lives on. And if anything on this planet grows continuously forever, and then it may cease to exist, kind of just destroy itself or destroy the basis of its existence, right? So unlimited growth isn't actually that good for us, and can sometimes exhaust us, right, and makes us feel miserable. And that was part of my journey as well. I want to connect with that too, that I was working on so many goals every single day. Are you still there, Craig? Okay, all right. I hope that we're still online. All right. So
Yes,
there was this this idea that, of course, I've set goals. Now I'm changing my life. I want to have this awesome life. So I'm going to set dreams and set goals for myself in all those areas of life. And I'm going to create a checklist of important things I have to do every single day. And I'm going to write down the hours when I'm going to do those things. And I'm going to do it one by one each single day. And well, was that a bit crazy to do? Sure. Was that, very disciplined? It trained my discipline also, sure. But more than anything, it created that mentality in me that happiness is somewhere
else.
In future, right,
someplace else,
somewhere down the line. When I finish all those tasks, I can finally pat myself in the back and say, you're a good guy, Adrian. You deserve love, you deserve acceptance. And when I was missing one thing, I was super frustrated. I was feeling, okay, I have to tweak my goals, I have to change my day routine, I have to do something more so I can achieve everything that I've planned. And it was burning me out. It was making me unhappy. And at some point I was thinking, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. Why I'm achieving so much. I'm doing so much. I have like 1000% productivity compared to the past, right? Why am I still not happy, even though I'm so productive? I believed, like the self-help books were telling me, productivity means happiness. It doesn't look like this always.
No, and one of my favorite stories, Adrian, I remember having the opportunity to work with a very successful triathlete. And I remember, and this gentleman struggled with compulsive sexual behavior, obviously. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to teach this guy about habits? I mean, can you imagine how disciplined you have to be to run a marathon, bike 100 miles, swim 2 miles, one of those kinds of triathletes, the Ironman. And I just remember being a little intimidated because what am I going to teach this guy? And it was through that experience that I was so grateful for, that it's not just, self-care. It's not just self-care, because this guy did everything he was supposed to do and was a finely fit machine. The organism was a finely tuned instrument that could do incredible things. This guy hated himself. He absolutely hated himself. And that's when I merged these two concepts together: self-care rooted in self-love. And if you are always looking someplace down the line and finally you'll get there more, look at where that's brought our society. So many people are have, so many wonderful things. And there are so many people who don't have those wonderful things. But I absolutely agree with you. The myth of unlimited expansion is poisonous. It prevents you from being present. It prevents you from being whole, looking for this return that's eventually going to pay itself off. Now, listen, we are all about goals. We want people to be successful. We want to inspire people and help them to be the best that they can be. What I found for me, when I finally accepted, when I finally was able to be present with my, challenges and my medical problems, finally is when I feel like I was able to obtain some level of happiness.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, there is what you mentioned is very important, that this pursuit of something, like we may want to have a better circumstances in life in many ways, to express ourselves differently, to learn new things, right? But it can come from that mentality of, I don't have enough and I have to do this in order to love myself, or it can come from, I love myself, so I want to, create a great life, share good things with others, so that acceptance and gratitude should be the foundation for our actions, and not the reason, not the actions should be a foundation for it, for
Yes.
acceptance and for self-love. So that was like a big lesson for me as well. And I realized I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm sober, I'm doing those goals, I'm creating my company, I'm doing translations, I'm having friends, I'm having, all everything. I have a girlfriend, and I'm still super unhappy. And I realized, in the same way that your client probably realized at some point, that there was something deep down, that didn't allow me to enjoy it at all. And that was that lack of self-love, lack of self-acceptance. And sometimes stopping for a moment, looking around and letting some of those things go even can be useful in order to gain a more balanced lifestyle that is actually fitting our happiness and satisfaction a bit better. I just want to comment on side, that growth can be in all directions. Growth can be forward, but growth can be sometimes also taking a step back, to look, maybe I need to change my route. Growth can mean expanding in depth. So the direction is down, to go deeper, to understand something deeper, specialized knowledge. I don't have to learn a new topic, but maybe this one I need to really perfect and master, right? So growth can go in all different directions. And we think about it just a step forward. Standing in the space where you are sometimes is the biggest growth you can make, because we always want to escape. We always want something else. We always want that perfect reality. So I'm just trying to make it a bit more nuanced for our guys, for our clients, to remember that sometimes you feel like maybe you're not growing, but many things that you're doing may be actually huge growth. Even the fact that you're not escaping your suffering anymore, even if you feel down at the moment. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I wanted to close with, to counterbalance that myth of unlimited expansion, mindfulness, gratitude are two really, really powerful ways to, get you off the treadmill. So let's move on to myth number 3. And what is myth number 3, Adrian?
Right. So it's toxic positivity. And I want to talk about this myth, because as a Polish person, I was always a prey of toxic negativity. In my country, there is not such thing as toxic positivity. So I have a bit of a different perspective here. We are, very good at complaining. That's our national flaw. So I was having a totally different mindset. I remember first time we started talking, Craig, you kind of, shared this positive idea for life, with me, and, just to pursue my dreams and this you can do it attitude that many Americans have. And I was so inspired by it because it was so different from what I had, right? So if you are struggling with a lot of negativity, self-doubt, complaining, always being dissatisfied with everything, that was my case, everything was wrong, everything was shitty, a bit of positivity is not toxic. That's what I want to say right up front. I think it's good. It's important for us to
Absolutely.
actually do something. But there is this element also of when, like, there's that time when the positivity becomes toxic. And, when does that happen? I think it happens when, for example, we don't consider, like I mentioned, we don't consider our limitations. We put a huge burden on our shoulders because we think whatever I think should happen, right? There are no limitations to me. So why is that not happening? Well, maybe it's because of me. Maybe I'm not doing enough. So this kind of attitude that I have no limitations is one example of toxic positivity. Another example, not being authentic in your expression. Positive vibes only. Again, that's not something that happens in Poland, but maybe Craig, you can speak a bit about how does that look like in other places. I know that there's a bit of that in other countries that I visited. Where you just put your best face, best mask, I would say, on your face and connect on this level of I'm always positive. There's always everything's fine.
And we see that all the time because we work with typically men who are successful in areas of their life that other people might be envious of. And so they're on the outside looking in, they might have all the things that someone else is jealous for. And deep down inside, they've got that mask on. Behind that mask is someone who is suffering. They've been infected by the myth of toxic positivity. They're stuffing down their negative feelings. They're not allowing themselves to feel. And as a result of that stuffing, that negativity comes out in squirrely ways. So I know exactly what you mean, man.
Right. I mean, that's it can't be true that only 50% of the feelings that humans experience are good and natural, and the other 50% shouldn't exist, right? If it happens, it means it happens for a reason. Every feeling tells us something. Actually, it tells us something important about ourselves. And in my mind, there is no such thing as negative emotion. And we use that sometimes, obviously, but I think that there are unpleasant feelings and pleasant feelings, right? But all of them are actually very important, very positive in a sense. But we don't express that. We want to appear as if we have everything together, right? So even if there is like a deep down struggle, we want to show the world that we're successful, maybe more successful than the neighbor, right? That our kids are in best schools, we have the best, healthcare, or we have the best car, and the biggest house, right? So there is this comparison element there, fear of how we are going to be judged by other people that kind of reinforces that whole idea that we should always be positive. And if you're negative, that's there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't be sad. Why are you sad? Why are you struggling? And, I was thinking about it and I realized, that actually, there is nothing healthy about smiling all the time. If my mother or father is dying, I will not be smiling. If somebody is hit my car because they were drunk, I'm not going to be super happy about it. I may be a bit angry, right? So those are all healthy responses that we don't allow ourselves to express and to feel. Even sometimes it goes so much deep down, like you mentioned, that we don't even experience those feelings. And it's so important for us, for our connection, honest connection with others, to let those feelings out. So there's nothing wrong if you're not smiling during the day. It's okay. You don't have to. You don't have to always have a great mood. You don't have to always have a great day. That's, again, a huge pressure that we are putting on our shoulders. And I think that part is toxic. That can really exhaust us long term.
Yeah, no, I think it's crippling. You have to be able to feel that negativity and be present with that pain. And not easy. We're not trained to feel that and to be present with that discomfort. But if you don't feel it, the body takes that in, and it actually causes physical injury, not just mental injury,
right?
But physical injury. So it's so important not to be infected by the toxic positivity bug. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't have a healthy perspective. This doesn't mean that you don't practice gratitude. All those things, you can be grateful. You can be in pursuit of your goals. You can be, aggressively pursuing a great life. And I am in pain, and I'm sad, and I'm,
And it's
angry,
okay.
and that's okay. And that's okay. The more you feel it, the less thought suppression you do. And when you have these negative reactions, as a lot of us were trained as children, shut up, stop crying, shut it down. Don't be a baby. Stop being, insert that negative
Don't be
word.
ungrateful. Don't be ungrateful.
Don't
right?
be ungrateful. We're trained not to feel. And that is toxic. That is toxic. That makes it worse. And that has people, in unprecedented numbers, numbing, coping, and escaping from very, very difficult feelings, thought suppressing those very difficult feelings instead of being present with them. Because what I've noticed, and I'm going to use an acute example, a sharp example that I learned through the internal family systems model, is, so let's say, for example, now panic attacks are a relatively new thing for me. I had my first one 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I forget the date, in an MRI machine. I read about them. I had clients who had them. I had never had one. I lie down in this machine, something triggered, hit me, started having these panic attacks. And when you have one of those bad boys, man, you want to get as far away as humanly possible, like run away from those feelings. It is terribly, terribly uncomfortable. You feel like you're going to die or suffocate. And when I stopped running away, from those uncomfortable feelings, when I welcomed them, not just was present with them, but welcome them. And what are you trying to tell me? Where am I off? Why am I afraid? Panic attack part. You can stay. Well, the panic attacks got less and less and less and less, and until it got to a place where I'm at now, a knock on wood, where I haven't had one in a while. I've had feelings of them, and I'm present with those feelings, and then it dissipates. I've had, pulls in that direction, but I'm present with those feelings, and it doesn't suck me into the undertow like they did when I was running away from those uncomfortable feelings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very important point. And I think that, just one thing I want to mention, just to strengthen my kind of idea around this, that even having a panic attack can mean that you're making progress, because maybe you can notice, thanks to that you neglected something. You can learn about yourself thanks to that. So it's not wrong to have a panic attack. It's a lesson, right, that you can learn from. And like you did, you welcome those feelings, you ask questions, and you probably realize something important about yourself, right, and your mind. So I think that's a key thing to remember. There's nothing wrong with different experiences we have, and we shouldn't just exclude that part, half of our life, and say, well, whenever I'm unhappy, angry, tired, sleepy, there's something wrong with me and I have to become a robot, basically. Or when I'm, and then when I'm happy, then that's how it should be always. Human beings are, I would say, shifting from feeling to feeling. That's part of, healthy mental functioning. The only functioning when your state of mind doesn't change is either depression or mania. Right. So in mania, you're all powerful, you're happy, you're energized for very, very long periods of time. In depression, the opposite, for very long periods of time. And there is a reason why both of those things are clinical issues, right? Means that it's not very good for the mind. It's not very good for the body as well, to go through certain feeling all the time, So we have to shift. And sometimes a bit of anger taught me many times, oh, something crossed my boundary, or maybe I should actually set a boundary here that I wasn't aware of, right? And it doesn't mean that you can't work on your anger to maybe express it better, right? To not harm other people when you're feeling anger. But that's a different thing. That's a different thing from not allowing yourself to feel it, or thinking, okay, there's something wrong with me because I'm angry. There's everything okay with feeling angry. I would say there's everything okay with you.
As the great Buddha said, life is suffering. Life is suffering. Right. You are going to experience pain. You are going to suffer. Pain mandatory, suffering optional. Adrian,
Exactly.
thank you so much for these 3 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to close on or anything you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Right. So the only thing that I want to close on, I would say, to focus on before we finish today is a question that I would like to ask you. Not you, Craig, but you, our listener.
You, the
Uh,
listener.
yes. I would like you to ask yourself when it's going to be enough. When finally you will be able to say to yourself, I am satisfied with my life. I am happy for what I have. When it will be enough for you to say, well, maybe actually that's, I don't need more to be happy. I can actually enjoy what I have, because we constantly challenge that idea, what's enough. We keep pushing that boundary. So ask yourself, maybe I can decide today that this is enough, or maybe I actually need one more thing in my life to be happy. Well, if that's true, then go for it. But I encourage you to remember that mindset of one more thing can never end. So please ask yourself, when is it going to be enough?
Yeah, deep question, very difficult answers. Thank you so much, Adrian, for sharing these myths with us. I hope everybody out there is able to see the positivity, around moving forward, around expanding, around goals, and see how each one of those myths has their own liabilities that are potentially holding you back, keeping you stuck in this cycle of consumerism. More. Those things are not going to make you happy. Think about what is going to make you happy. Thank you so much, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Craig. Thank you.
All right, my man. I'll see you on the next podcast. Peace and love, everybody. If you need more help, need more resources, visit www.themindfulhabit.com. We have a free training, the 4 transformational systems that you must make if you want to beat your sex addiction and your porn addiction. Also, if you're at that place in your life where you are ready to take action, and there's a number on the website to call to learn more about our coaching programs. Thank you, Adrian. Love you, brother.
Thank you very much.